Over the last week or so, we have seen the terrible scenes in that's taking place in Iran, and this has the reasons for it are just as bad as the scenes taking place. The eruption of nationwide protests in Iran following the death in police custody of a 22-year-old Kurdish woman detained for allegedly failing to adhere to hijab rules is the most serious challenge to Iran's leadership for years. Whilst authorities say Mahsa Amini died from underlying health reasons, her family and countless other Iranians believe she died as a result of having been beaten. Protesters say that if they don't act now, they could fall victim to the same fate. At least 30 people have been killed in the protests. It has come at a time when Iranians are feeling particularly fed up. Systematic corruption among Iran's political elite, growing poverty with inflation at more than 50%, deadlock in nuclear talks, and lack of social and political freedom have left Iran's young and vibrant population feeling hopeless. That's from a BBC article. Just a couple of things I want to speak on. Firstly, on the government side, um, whether you're a Muslim country or not, and if you are a Muslim country, whether you implement Sharia law or not, you can't firstly force anyone to wear the hijab or the headscarf or any religious sort of thing. You can't force them, and Islam doesn't tell anyone to force anyone to do anything. The religion is a religion of force. Also, from the government side, that's not acceptable, and so the government have nothing to. They can't say, "Oh, the Quran says this," or in Islam it says that. The rules are there, and if you don't follow them, then that's your choice, and the consequences. You know what the consequences are in terms of um what happens in Islam, as in um whether there's sins or whether in what happens in the afterlife or other implications. But in terms of right now, if you choose not to wear the hijab, then that's your choice. Like, no one can force you to wear it. And if you're only wearing it because you're forced to wearing it, then that's no use to anyone. And secondly, from um the protesters' point of view, what is burning the hijab going to do? What are you angry with? You're angry with the government, or if you're angry with the hijab, that's a different story. But but burning the hijab does absolutely nothing, because your anger is towards the government who are implementing the hijab in an incorrect way. They are forcing people to wear it, and if those who do not wear it are getting beaten, and in this case, from their beatings, they've died. You're angry towards the government, the way they're implementing it, their policies, not with the hijab. So what is the point in burning the hijab? The hijab is firmly rooted in Islam. It's an integral part to many people's faith. Many don't choose to wear it, but they still respect those who do wear it. Like, you'd see, many people, they don't wear the hijab. There might be one person in a group. There's 10 people. Let's say 9 people don't wear the hijab, and one sister wears the hijab. The wind or something, for some reason, her hijab comes off or is coming off. They'll surround her so no one's able to view her while she fixes her hijab. Like, we have seen videos of even non-Muslims surrounding a Muslim sister just because a hijab is coming off, so she has time to figure. So even those who don't wear it and those Muslims who don't wear it, they understand the significance and the sacredness of the hijab, and even non-Muslims realize it. So burning the hijab won't get you anywhere. It's not the hijab's problem, it's the people, the government, their way of interpreting the law, their way of applying the law, their way of trying to control people. That's the problem. And so for me, that's absolutely unacceptable. Burning something that is so integral and important to in Islam for women, that's not acceptable. And that's, what do you like? Like, is that how low you think of symbols and of Islam, that you burn them because of people's wrongdoing? Hopefully, and the last angle. So we've done it from the protesters' angle. We've done it from the government's angle. Now, to finish off quickly, um, the media is using this as an excuse to be Islamophobic. That is absolutely unacceptable. When when Israel does and still doing wrong, Muslims don't point the fingers at Jews. You point the fingers at Zionists and extreme people who are doing those actions. Likewise, and with recent ongoings in Leicester and India and other places, Muslims and other people, we don't point the fingers at Hindus. We point the fingers at extreme uh, people who are Hindus who are part of the nationalist movement, and in other cases we don't point the fingers at people of those religions, but those extreme ones. And likewise in Islam, it's not Muslims, it's those extreme ones, the radicalized ones, the ones like ISIS um that we speak on. So we can't just say Islam is bad or Iran is bad. Like, that's not how it goes. That's a very dangerous thing to do. And if the media is doing that, indirectly or directly, what does that happen, lead to the thinking of the population? And Muslims and Muslim countries are already looked down upon, and you're making it worse and worse. And the main reason why they looked down upon in the first place is because of the media, and now the media is making it even worse. And you think, and then you have the audacity to say, um, we're dealing with, and we're tackling ways to make sure Islamophobia doesn't happen, to make sure people aren't doing XYZ, when you're the reason why people are they feel a certain way about Muslim countries.